Hello, everyone. And first of all, I would like to say thank you very much for having me all the way from Australia, recording this from my office. So I hope you can hear me. I hope you can see everything well. And my neighbor has just started mowing his lawn. So I hope that that is not coming through too much. So today we're going to talk all things strength training, and in particular, the benefits around strength training for women in jiu-jitsu, because as women in jiu-jitsu, it's not just about, I mean, of course it's about performance enhancement. Of course we want to perform better, but it's also about resilience and self-preservation and longevity on the mat, so keeping us doing this sport that we love for as long as possible. So, throughout the next few slides, I'll take you through a few reasons why everyone should be doing strength training, benefits for strength training for women, as well as, in particular, the women who do jujitsu. So, let's get stuck into it. First of all, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Roxy. You can find me on Instagram at Coach Roxy. I'm always happy to chat there. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to help. I have been a strength and flexibility coach, or an S&C coach, many names, for 10 years now, and that time has flown. Honestly, I'm blessed, and I've been a jiu-jitsu enthusiast for around about 4.5 years, maybe just over. I love doing handstands as well, so I'm also a handstand coach, which is a bit random, but I am. And then in my spare time, if I ever have any, I love to go for a surf. I am the founder and head coach at my strength and conditioning for jiu-jitsu practitioners app called Ready to Roll. Everyone is welcome. I have a lot of men on there, but the reason I really started it was to try to create a space for women who wanted to be coached by another woman who understands all of the nuance that goes into our monthly cycles, training around all of that, trying to train a male dominated sport as a smaller or weaker person, and all of the things. So that was why I sort of started that app. So let's get stuck into some strength training. So, first of all, I just would like to go over the general benefits of strength training for every single human on the planet. Um, Obviously, strength training, I feel like this one's a pretty obvious one, but we will go over it anyway. We want to have stronger and more dense muscles. This is obviously going to enhance our physical abilities, as well as just like provide support to our bodies, which is very important as we age, and it's going to help us build those nice strong joints. Easier weight management. So having a lot of, or not even a lot, having some lean muscle mass can really help to manage your weight and reduce such big fluctuations, simply because it will increase your basal metabolic rate, which means that you burn more calories simply at rest, because the muscle uses more energy than fat does, essentially. So having more lean muscle makes it a lot easier to sort of go up and down only by a little bit. So instead of having these huge, yo-yo diet sort of cycles, you generally find you stay within a few kilograms or pounds of your normal weight. And this can obviously be really helpful if you are someone who has to cut for competitions. And then we've got our increased bone density. So unfortunately for women, our bone density does decrease quite substantially as we age. We'll get into that a little bit later, but doing strength training can help offset that. So it's one of the things that we can do to help sort of offset that, help us become stronger, build us strong bones, and obviously help reduce the chance of fractures and things like that. So now, what about strength training for women? So we'll go a little deeper here. So a decreased risk of osteopenia and osteoporosis, and that is when your bone mineral density basically gets really low and your bones get brittle, and they're more likely to break if you, say, have a fall or something as you age. I'm talking about. As women, our peak bone density occurs around the age of 22. After that time, we don't get that. That's the peak. That's what we've got. Sometimes it does continue to very slowly increase, but not often past the age of about 30. And this is when it starts to decline, which is just insane to me, but it is what it is. Now, we can offset this. We cannot stop it or anything, but we can offset it and slow it down and try to sort of keep that as high a level as possible for as long as possible. And we do that through strength training and plyometrics, which is, putting impact through our bones. Excuse me if my voice sounds a little odd. I've been battling a cold for the last few weeks. So, not last few weeks, last few days. So I apologize if I've got a bit of a croaky voice coming through. So, I've got here bone density. Yeah, so bone density decreases after the age of 32, but we actually hit our peak around 22. After 32, it does start to slowly decline. Adding in strength training is the best way to do this. And the way that it works is our muscles act like levers on our bones. So let's take a bicep curl, for example. If I was to do a bicep curl here, my bicep attaches to my forearm down here. And by putting that stress through my forearm, I am sending a message to my bones to lay down more of the bone cells, which promote growth and density in the bones. So that's how that works. So very, very, very important for all women, but particularly if you haven't started yet, it's not too late, and particularly as you age, it's definitely very, very helpful. It also really helps to regulate our hormones, which can become very important, especially around perimenopause and menopause. Strength training actually helps to offset the decline in estrogen around this time. So again, not something that we can stop, unfortunately, but we can help offset it and maybe minimize the symptoms that we experience during this time. And then at the end, we've got our mental health benefits. And I do feel like as jiu-jitsu women, you probably already very much appreciate the mental health benefits which come from a sport like jiu-jitsu and how great you feel afterwards, even if you did just spend the whole open mat having your face smashed into the mats, it still somehow results in a good mood. But studies have shown that strength training has shown, excuse me, has shown some significant decreases in depression and anxiety, as well as increases in self-esteem. So I feel like you guys probably already know that, but it's definitely a huge benefit. Okay, now let's talk about the benefits of strength training, but in particular for the women of jiu-jitsu. So we've niched it down quite a lot here. First up, let's talk about injury resilience. As we are typically among the smaller people on the mats and also often in the minority, and also we're usually a little bit weaker, we want to look after our bodies because we want to be doing this sport for as long as we can. So, strength training is particularly advantageous for the women in jiu-jitsu. Obviously, we want to be training consistently. We don't want those lengthy recovery periods if you get injured. When I say injury resilience, I want to make it clear that injury prevention is not a thing, unfortunately, but we can become a bit more resilient to it. So, if perhaps an injury does occur, it's maybe not quite as severe as it would have been otherwise. And not only that, but you might recover a little bit more quickly from it. Not only that, it will probably reduce your chances of those niggling injuries. You know, the like, oh, my shoulder's always sore or my knee's always sore. Doing strength training, building strong joints, bones, muscles is going to help with that stuff a lot. Better control at our end ranges. Now, I'm going to go into that a little bit more later on because it's very important for jiu-jitsu. But basically, it's the ability to maintain our stability and strength even when our joints are fully extended. So, for instance, if our elbow is like fully extended out like that, this would be not extended. This is fully extended and still able to sort of produce force, maintain stability at that end range. That can be super helpful for, again, going back to the injury resilience, essentially. For those with hypermobility disorders, strength training is even more important. It helps you to create stability through the joints, which is really what we want to be doing if you are a hypermobile individual. We would approach things very differently for you when it comes to the flexibility or the mobility side of things, depending on how your hypermobility presents. But typically speaking, strength training, big tick for the hypermobility crowd out there. Obviously, we've got our performance enhancement, and I feel like that one's a no-brainer. You get stronger, you don't have to use as much muscle to get the job done, you recover faster after your match, which brings me on to that easier recovery between sessions and matches. If you're strong, fit, powerful, flexible, mobile, and you're not having to use everything you've got in your tank in order to get through a match, then you're going to recover more quickly than if you were at 100% the whole time, or if you were surpassing your sort of current capacity and capabilities. So that's obviously a good benefit. And then we've got self-esteem and confidence in your body. So I was actually speaking to someone just the other day, and they mentioned that they feel so weak that they are a little bit worried and a little bit scared about trying certain maneuvers or positions or submissions because they didn't have a confidence that they were strong enough to do it. So having that confidence in your body to be able to do the things you love, like I talk to a lot of girls who love to invert, and so I help them to build that body that is going to be able to deal with them inverting as much as they do. So those are sort of the main reasons why benefits of those are some of the main benefits of strength training, particularly for women in jiu-jitsu. So next up, I just want to go into a little bit more about strength, mobility, and flexibility, and just go through the differences between them. Each of them play a significant role in being strong and resilient. So first up, we've got our strength training. And again, I feel like this is probably a no-brainer. They're exercises that we use to increase our muscle size, strength, and endurance to get stronger, essentially. So we know that one. That one's pretty straightforward. Strength training can be done with external weight or your body weight. There's lots of different ways to do strength training. Mobility refers to our body's ability to move our joints through our range of motion in a controlled manner, basically. So it's our ability to lift my arm overhead and move it around, my ability to get up off the ground, my ability to sit in a cross-legged position and then be able to get myself off the ground again. Those kinds of things, that's mobility. Active flexibility and passive flexibility. So that's what I've got these three girls here demonstrating. So active flexibility refers to this girl here, our ability to move your limbs using only your muscles. So she's using the muscles on the front of her leg here, so her quads and her hip flexors and probably some abs, in order to pull her leg up as high as it can go. Now, this will, of course, be limited by her hamstring flexibility, but essentially this is her active flexibility range. Going over to this side, this would be passive flexibility. So this is how far someone else can move your leg. So if you've got a friend, you pop your heel on their shoulder there and they lift your leg up as high as it goes. So this takes the strength component out of it. So she's not using the muscles on the front of her leg here. We're simply stretching the hamstring. That's all we're doing. So this is the difference between the two. And you can test where yours is at. Ideally, we want them to be pretty close to one another, but you will probably find that your passive flexibility, your leg goes up a lot higher than you're able to hold it on your own. So you can test it. You can jump up, lift your leg in the air with your knee completely straight, see how high you can get it and hold it for 5 seconds, and then have a friend do it and see if it's the same, higher or lower. Alternatively, we can start in this position here, get your friend to lift your leg up as high as you can. Then I want you to engage the front of your leg, all of your quads, keep your knees straight, and have your friend very slowly and gently move away from your leg and see if you can maintain that same height of your foot for 5 seconds. So test it out, see how you fare. This one basically is a big strength component of flexibility, which is a part that a lot of people sort of miss out, but very important, especially when it comes to jiu-jitsu and the ability to move your limbs to where you want them so that they can do the task that you're asking for. Let's take guard retention, for instance. If you have flexible hamstrings and strong quads and you're able to bring your leg close to your chest and stretch your leg out in order to sort of frame and get your guard back, it's going to be much better than if you are not strong or not flexible. Much easier, I should say. And it can kind of help support your technique, essentially. And then we've got our end range strength, which we kind of touched on before. And I've got one more slide on this one just to try and explain it a little bit more to you. But essentially, it's the ability to produce force at the end ranges of your flexibility. So the goal here is to create to bridge the gap between these two here to create strong and resilient bodies. So essentially, when I say we want to see if we can keep the foot up as high as we can here, that's referring to our end range strength. So this is our end range. Now, do we have the strength to maintain that end range? So that's what end range strength is in a big nutshell. There's a lot more to it, but essentially stretching a muscle to its end ranges of your flexibility and then having the ability to then contract that muscle is super important. One, for blood flow, injury resilience, and all of that, and two, for performance enhancement. So do that test and see how you go. So end range strength, a little bit more about it here. This is a really crucial concept in your jiu-jitsu training. It's all about continuing to not only just be powerful even when you're at the end limits of your flexibility, but that's what's going to help you in like reducing the severity or the chance of an injury. Imagine this. You've got your leg overhead, your hamstring is at its full range of motion, and you're able to push off, maybe frame off someone and produce force through that hamstring in order to sort of get your guard back, versus someone just slams into it. You don't have any force there. You can't contract the muscle, so it tears basically. And so that can happen really easily. Actually, he probably won't want me telling you this, but it actually happened to my partner the other day. He was another purple belt was going for some, I think like an uchimata or some kind of throw like that, and he balanced on one leg, went all the way over, and because he's not that flexible there, he could not contract his muscle. And so what happened was he actually ended up with a little bit of a tendon tear. Now, if he had the ability to contract that muscle, he might not have had the tear for sure. He also might still have had it, but maybe just not so severe. He also would have better blood flow, which would help with the injury recovery period as well. And it probably just wouldn't have hurt so much. He would have had more control there. So that's kind of where end range strength comes in. When I say decreasing recovery time, if you do get injured, what I'm referring to is because that muscle has been contracting or through all those ranges, you have a better blood flow essentially. So blood is the thing that we want to heal injuries, and that's why it can decrease your recovery time. And then improving performance. So just like I mentioned just before, thinking guard retention or any position where you're stretched out, but you need some control. Now, I'm not saying that you will be strong enough to sort of yeet someone backwards from your end ranges of strength, but it might be just enough. It just might give you that little inch that you need to wiggle out of a bad position or something. Yeah, so that's kind of all on that one. And just remember, like, building strength, it's obviously about flexibility, but it's not only about flexibility. It's about making our movements safe as well as effective. So let's talk about a little bit more about why this is important for jiu-jitsu. This is obviously an important concept because I've touched on it a few times now. So first of all, we've got confidence. Like I sort of mentioned before, having confidence in your skills and your body can enhance your performance on the mat, because when you trust your training, you can focus better, you can stay more composed during matches, you trust your body's ability to try moves, submissions, and transitions. And like, there's nothing better than feeling confident in your body, let's be honest. Next up, we've got injury resilience, which I feel like I've covered quite a bit, but we will just briefly go over it again. Jiu-jitsu is demanding. We know that. But building that injury resilience is going to help protect your body from common injuries, whether they're the niggling little ones, like I mentioned before, or whether they're the hamstring tendon tear, like my partner. Um, it's it's a good thing. Those are both good things. This is going to allow you to train more consistently and just enjoy the journey a bit more without these frequent setbacks. In addition, if you do happen to get caught in a nasty submission, having some access to that end range strength can drastically improve your chances of either avoiding injury if you don't tap quick enough and they sort of send it on something, or maybe you'll even get an escape. But again, disclaimer, I'm not saying to push it to that last beyond the last second just because you feel like you have better end range strength and control now. But, it can definitely help. Faster recovery. So we've mentioned this before as well. Maintaining your training intensity will allow you to progress more steadily. So having the ability to recover faster between sessions, between matches, is only going to be a good thing for you. So all we're trying to do is give your body the best chance to bounce back as quickly as possible between each session and between each match. And I mean, that's sort of whether or not this is just a weekend open mat or if you've got a big competition, having that ability to recover quickly is going to be excellent for you. And then lastly, we've got better performance. So with having increased strength, flexibility, mobility, power, cardio, endurance, all the things up. I mean, I feel like it's obvious it's going to significantly improve your performance. It's not only going to improve your competitive edge, but it just makes it a bit more fun for you. And like I mentioned before, if you are feeling strong, fit, robust, all the good things, and you go into a match and you don't need to absolutely cook yourself to get through the match, then you don't have as much to recover from because you have a bigger tank essentially. So you're using less through each match, which makes it easier to recover from and easier to bring your best game for each sort of subsequent match after that. Okay, so what now? We know that I feel like we now know that it's very important to have strong and flexible joints and muscles, tendons, ligaments, but how on earth do we achieve this, right? I feel like there's so much misinformation out there, especially on Instagram. Drives me crazy. The fact of the matter is, it takes time. These things like doing 5 or 10 minutes of stretching a day, like that might yield some pretty good results, but there's definitely a better way to do it. And I don't know about you, but I hate having to do one thing every single day. I feel like it just becomes a bit of a chore for me. I would rather do an effective workout 2 or 3 times a week. Any of those apps, I won't say names, but they sort of promise, I went from this to this and it's a full middle split in only 30 days. That kind of stuff is not true. That is not real. There may be some outliers out there somewhere for sure. And some people do get really great results when they start training effectively. I've had clients within 2 weeks achieve nearly the splits, front splits, but very rare. You will see some good results, but like often those big drastic ones are not true. So I just beg you, please don't fall for it. Save your money. Basically, what we want to be doing is effective exercises that are targeting both strength and flexibility together with progressive overload and the required intensity and rest. A lot of people think they don't need recovery from flexibility. You absolutely do. Flexibility is very stressful on your central nervous system, and when we include it with strength, we need to make sure we're also recovering so that we can bring the intensity the next time. It also means that we don't really need to train that often. 2 or 3 times a week is plenty. So I've written up this little thing here. You can take a photo of this here if you are someone who you don't want to hire a coach, you don't want to follow someone else's program and you want to write your own. That's completely fine. I do always recommend that you go to the gym with a plan though. Don't just walk in thinking I'll just do what I feel like today. Have a plan. Stick to your plan. So you can follow this and I'll run you through it very quickly. Like I said, 2 to 3 days a week is plenty. It allows you to hit intensities across the board at jiu-jitsu and in the gym. If you're new to strength training, just start with 2 days. that's enough. And you don't need to be maxing out straight away. We want to build your capacity slowly, right? So if you are, no, not if anything. So what we want to do is make sure that you're training on the days that you already have jiu-jitsu as long as your schedule allows it. And this probably seems really counterintuitive to some of you. And that's fine. Most people think that as well. But what it actually does is maximize your recovery days. So if you can do that, I 100% guarantee it. Guarantee it. 100% recommend it. Sorry, my cold brain is messing with me. So let's look at session 1. All of the sessions, make them full body. It reduces the amount of stress overall, or to like say one body part. If you go in and you're just constantly smashing your squats, for instance, then you're probably going to feel pretty fatigued. Full body, getting in some plyometrics. I've got here some squats, some single leg hinge, always doing some core, add in some upper body. We've got horizontal push, and then end range strength, loaded mobility at the end, and then a 10-minute HIIT session on an air bike or some kind of cardio equipment. Session 2 would be more of an upper body focus, but we're still doing more of our full body sort of stuff. So we got bis and tris in there, biceps and triceps, very important for jiu-jitsu. And if you can get them in twice a week, that's even better. More core grip training. We've got our threshold cardio at the end of this one. And then session 3, back with the plyos. This time we're doing a bilateral hinge, single leg squat. So like this is a very basic structure, but you can sort of build this out to what works for you and your equipment. If, like I mentioned, if you don't want to follow a program or hire a coach. So let's talk about your ideal schedule, because I find I get this question a lot. People are like, oh my God, how do I fit it in? I train jiu-jitsu 75 times a week and I do MMA and I do all of these things. But fact of the matter is you have to be doing strength training. So we need to find time for you. Like I mentioned before, we want to aim to put your heaviest jiu-jitsu days on your heaviest strength days. And I know it sounds crazy, but trust me, it's very good. It maximizes the amount of actual full days of recovery that you can have, rather than doing something on every single day of the week and then your body never gets that full day just to chill out and for your central nervous system to recover. This allows that. But caveat, we want to make sure that you're eating and you're hydrating between sessions as well as after. So like I said, 2 to 3 sessions a week in the gym is plenty. If you're following a solid program or write your own solid program, this allows enough time, like I mentioned, to hit those intensities, to get stronger and more flexible or more mobile, to get fitter, but also be recovered enough to also get better at jiu-jitsu. Because at the end of the day, we're strength training to support the jiu-jitsu. We're not bodybuilding. We're not powerlifting. Often the people that are doing bodybuilding and powerlifting are not also training jiu-jitsu 5 or 6 times a week, so it's a different beast. So like I kind of just said that, this allows better recovery, which results in better gains on both the mats and in the gym. Now, if you are someone who has niggling injuries, you got relentless soreness from the gym, then you may need to have a couple of rest days and just get your central nervous system in order before you move forward. So I would love to say a huge thank you. I've got a Q&A coming just after this with some questions that were submitted just before. But before we get into it, thank you very much. And I would love to offer you guys a 20%, 25% discount on the Ready to Roll app from the Jiu-Jitsu Queens program. So Rose and I actually collaborated. We have a Jiu-Jitsu Queens program coming out soon. It's not quite ready to be released yet. If you're interested, you can have early access and just use code QUEENS with a Z at the checkout. Alternatively, if you just have a question for me, hit me up. I'm always happy to chat at Coach Roxy on Instagram or hello@readytoroll.online for email. So let's get into the Q&A. So these were submitted yesterday, I think. Now, how do you train during luteal and menstrual phase? Very, very good question. One that obviously comes up a lot, given that I work with a lot of women. I have a very simple answer to this. First of all, though, I would like to make a little disclaimer. Everyone's cycle is different. I mean, you probably even notice that your own cycle from cycle to cycle can be can be wildly different. Some of them are super fine and others can just like rattle you. So that leads me to my answer being, do the best you can on any given day. And the reason I say this is because a lot of people seem to plan to have easier weeks during their luteal and menstrual phases. But what can happen is you can get to that time and you're actually full of energy, but because you've sort of planned to do something more low intensity, you end up missing out on all these gains. So I I approach every single day the same, and that is that I want to give it my best, the best that I can on that day. The other, sometimes the opposite happens too. Like if you're thinking, oh, I should be in the good part of my cycle now, but you actually feel like crap, then you end up feeling really bad about it. Whereas if you just think every single day, I'm going to do the best I can to continue my progress. And if it happens that you're a lot lower energy that day for whatever reason, it could be anything, then you just pull back a little bit, pull back, go on lighter weights, just do some mobility, or have a rest day. It's not the end of the world at all to just be like, you know what? I know I'm in the good phase of my cycle right now, but I'm exhausted and the last place I want to be right now is the gym. Then don't go. That's cool. Just make sure you don't go for weeks and weeks in a row. And same goes for luteal and menstrual phase. Wake up, just do as much as you can. If you might start your workout and be like, I'm actually feeling pretty good. Sweet. There's no harm in going as hard as you can during luteal or menstrual phase if you feel like you can. If your body's like, nah, girl, go home, then maybe you just want to go home. But yes, so that was a really long way of saying do the best you can on any given day of the month, regardless of what phase of your cycle that you're in. And like I said at the start, I know that lots of people experience a lot of different symptoms within their cycle, but I still feel like that advice holds true. And just to do what you can on that day. If you have to give yourself a little bit of grace, give yourself some grace. It's not going to be the end of the world at all. It might even take some stress off your plate if you're like, oh, that's okay. How do you strengthen your hips? Well, hips are kind of my specialty. However, it's a very broad, difficult question to answer. So, generally speaking, loaded mobility and strength is what you want to be doing, and the end range strength as well. We want to be moving through all of our different planes of motion, but our body is one big kinetic chain, right? So, we don't just want to be focusing on the hips. We want to make sure your whole spine, lumbar, thoracic, the whole thing is also moving well as below the hips too. Like we want to be making sure that our knees are working well, our ankles are working well. So it's really a non-answer, and I'm sorry about that, but essentially make sure you're working all of the muscle groups which surround the hips. Make sure you're getting them mobile, flexible, using things like loaded mobility, strength training, interset stretching, things like that. What supplements do I recommend? Not that many, to be honest. I recommend everyone takes creatine. Creatine is one of the most widely researched supplements going, and it's also one of the cheapest. There's a German brand called Creapure, which I have yet to try, but I've just heard such good things about it. And apparently it's hydrolyzed or whatever I think it's using water instead of something else. I'm not really sure. I'm explaining this very badly, but look it up. Otherwise, any creatine monohydrate is great. Unless you have been told by your doctor that you shouldn't be taking it because you have I think it's your creatinine levels in your kidneys. I digress. Everyone should be taking creatine unless their doctor tells them not to. After that, I would be taking magnesium. Like I'm really bad at taking my magnesium, but I do recommend that if you are sort of sore or you have trouble sleeping, magnesium can be good for that. Protein powder. If you're vegan, vegetarian, you can get so many good vegan ones these days using pea protein and brown rice protein as well. But yeah, definitely protein powder, not as a main source of protein, but really great for in between sessions to make sure you're getting that protein in to help with that muscle repair and growth between jiu-jitsu and strength training, and just to literally supplement your diet. After that, I know a lot of people speak really highly of fish oil. It is something that I want to get onto myself, but I haven't, so I can't speak for my anecdotal experience. But yeah, to recap, creatine, magnesium, protein powder, fish oil. So not a whole lot really. Oh, and some electrolytes too. Electrolytes are very important for jiu-jitsu athletes because you sweat so much, as I'm sure you're aware. And the last one, only have time to lift twice a week, and she wants to deadlift, squat, and hip thrust throughout the whole week. How do you fit them in? And I think you mentioned something about them. You want to lift them heavy each time. So what I would probably do is I would treat one of them. Let's say you put your deadlift and your hip thrust on the same day, and then you squat on another day. I would be focused on the strength component of one of them. So higher weight, lower reps on one, and the other one can act more like an accessory. So you're still getting that movement pattern going, but we're not frying the central nervous system quite as much. And then I would do that for, say, an 8-week block, and then I'd flip it on its head. And then I would do the opposite one for the strength building component, while the other one sort of becomes more of an accessory movement. But really not a problem in my 2 and 3 day a week programs. We do all of those things over 2 days, and it works really well. So thank you very much for having me. I hope my voice wasn't too annoying for you to listen to. And I hope you got some good information from that. Like I said, if you want to reach out, please do. I'm always happy to chat.